أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد الهادي الأمين وعلى آله وجنده الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم اجعل خير أعمالنا خواتيمها وخير أيام يوم أن نلقاك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Who remembers where we stopped last time? We're talking about the life of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the seerah, right? And then when we stopped, when the Prophet ﷺ went to the Ta'if with Zayd ibn Haritha alayhi, and he was actually pushed out of the Ta'if in the way that we discussed. And he made the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah, out of hardship, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored him and dignified him in this life and even more so in the hereafter. And Prophet ﷺ, after what happened in the Ta'if, now keep in mind that this happened after Khadija died and Abu Talib died, and the Prophet ﷺ was looking for a home base for the da'wah, for the message. So because anyway Mecca became almost like a hopeless situation. Nobody was joining the ranks of Islam, and the people of Mecca were increasingly persecuting the Muslims. So the Prophet looked for another place, and he eyed actually At-Ta'if, which is not that far from Mecca. But of course the people of Mecca rejected him alayhi salatu wasalam. And then after all of that, he still had to go back to Mecca alayhi salatu wasalam. You can imagine the situation. A person, despite the fact that this place was persecuting him, was oppressing him, killing some of his companions, but still the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam had to go back, and he did not have any choice. That's why he went back under the protection of a non-Muslim at the time. His name Al-Mut'am ibn Jubayr, Al-Mut'am ibn Adi. He went back under his protection. They had the system called Al-Jiwar. So he benefited from that alayhi salatu wasalam, and he entered back actually in the Qa'dah of the 10th year after the revelation. And still, the Qa'dah means Al-Hajj was right the next month. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam made use of that occasion to start offering Islam to the different tribes that were visiting Mecca for Hajj. They were doing Hajj even before the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So the Prophet started offering them Hajj, and then different tribes actually came to Mecca at that time, but none of them actually accepted to provide, that place for the da'wah. None of them actually, but some of the great companions became Muslim at that time. Among them, one great companion, his name is Tufayl ibn Amir al-Dawsi. Tufayl ibn Amir from the tribe of Daws, he used to be a poet. Now, by that time, the people of Mecca were still preventing anyone from listening to the Prophet ﷺ, spreading all kinds of rumors and bad information, erroneous, like what you're hearing today, subhanAllah, happening. That Islam is this and Islam is this. So they told this Tufayl ibn Amir al-Dawsi, who was a poet and a very smart person. They told him that this Muhammad is a magician. If you hear his words, he'll bewitch you. That's why he'll possess you. You don't want to listen to him. So that's why the best thing you can do is to fill your ears with cotton. This way you won't hear anything that he says. So he decided to do that. He says that he just plugged his ears with cotton, so he won't hear anything that the Prophet ﷺ had to say. But then he thought about it for a second, and he said, Wallahi, I'm a smart person. That's why I'm not the person to be bewitched so easily, to be so seduced easily. So he said, let me listen to him. Maybe, of course, he will have something good to say. So he listened to the Prophet ﷺ, and of course in no time he adopted his message. Wallahi, and that's something, subhanAllah, we were discussing it the other day, that one of the miraculous aspects of the Quran is in the language. Al-Bayan, the expressive ability of the Quran. Something that has no parallel, and then the people that appreciated that are those people that had the language. The people of Arabia were very eloquent at the time. That's why someone like Tufayl ibn Amir al-Dawsi, very smart, very eloquent, and a poet as well. He heard the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they could tell that these are not the words of a human being. That's why they would follow that. And that's exactly what Tufayl ibn Amir al-Dawsi did. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just to dignify him, this is like one of his karama. One of the things that Allah dignified him with, he says that some light was coming out of his face. But he was afraid that if people see it that way, it will be a bad sign, or people will take a bad omen in that. That's why he prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the light was moved to the tip of his whip. The tip of his stick actually would have a light that will shine his way. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him to go back to his people. Now, how long did he stay with the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? For a few moments. Enough for him to become a Muslim, but yet he went back to his people and he started warning them. And he says after sometimes he came back to the Prophet ﷺ with about 80 years after the Battle of Al-Khandaq. With 80 families became Muslim through his effort from then until the Battle of Al-Khandaq. Now, how much of Islam did he know at that time? Again, very little. Subhanallah. But it was enough for him to convey the message, and effectively enough so, as 80 families became Muslim through his effort. Now that's what the Prophet ﷺ said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey on my behalf, even if it is one verse. Even if it's one verse. And all of us know more than one verse. If you pray, you know more than one verse. So all of us actually can convey that, but it's really important when the Prophet asks us to convey one verse, for us to convey a verse that we know, not a verse that I don't know. What I mean, it is really very important for us to talk about the things that we know about, and not to try to extrapolate. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know, let me check and get back with you. There's nothing wrong with that. Especially sometimes, we give erroneous answer, and some of the brothers, they will come to you, Wallahi, I said this, is this right? It was the wrong answer, you shouldn't have said that. Because sometimes if you don't give the right answer, you get yourself stuck. So again, the Prophet ﷺ said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey on my behalf, even if it was one ayah. And that's exactly what Tufail ibn Amr al-Dawsi did. And the same thing with the story of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, by the way, who came, and Abu Dharr al-Ghifari came from a tribe of thieves. The tribe of Ghifar was known to be thieves, But subhanallah, all of them after the migration of the Prophet came as Muslims. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Ghifar, غَفَرَ اللَّهُ لَهَا. That Ghifar, may Allah forgive them. Subhanallah, beautiful thing happening. And the Prophet ﷺ kept on conveying the message, and now we're getting into the 11th year after the revelation. And during the Hajj of the 11th year after the migration, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, and something really great happened. What happened on that year, there were some men coming from the Khazraj, from the people of Medina, of Yathrib. Yathrib was not known as Al-Medina at that time. Medina is known commonly as Al-Madina Al-Munawwara, or the Medina of the Prophet ﷺ, but the Prophet called it Tiba or Taba. All these actually are names of Al-Madina, but it was not known by then as Tiba or Al-Madina. People commonly referred to it as Yathrib. So at that time, there were 6 men coming from the Khazraj. And these were As'ad ibn Zurara, Auf ibn al-Harith, Rafi' ibn Malik, Qutb ibn Amir, Uqba ibn Amir, and Jabir ibn Abdullah. May Allah be pleased with them all. So they came to the Prophet ﷺ. They came to Mecca for Hajj. Again, people were doing Hajj. So the Prophet ﷺ sat with them, and he started telling them about his message. And they liked it. Not only that, but they told the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that the Jews of Yathrib, in Medina, they were the polytheists, the idol worshippers, and they were also the Jews. The polytheists, the idol worshippers, were 2 main tribes. And those were, what were those 2 main tribes? What? Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj. Even though collectively sometimes they were referred to as Al-Khazraj. But they were Al-Aws and the Khazraj. And the Jewish tribes, there were mainly 3 tribes. Anybody knows them? Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, and Banu Nadir. Jazakumullah khair. The 3 Jewish tribes. So what happened is that the Jewish tribes used to continuously threaten the idol worshippers, telling them that we are living in a time where a prophet is due to appear. They were telling them that in our books it says that a prophet is due to appear shortly, and when he does come out, we will follow him and we will slaughter you like sheep. So what those 6 people from the Khazraj, they thought that, well, the best thing we can do is to beat the Jews into believing in him. They said we will have his support instead of them having his support. Not only that, but they also told the Prophet ﷺ that we are so divided among ourselves. You will not find anybody who is as divided, among themselves as we were. The Aws and the Khazraj continuously fighting with each other, and we're hoping maybe you will help us unite. and reconcile among each other. So they had a lot of hope in this message. The Prophet ﷺ just offered them that, and he had an appointment to come back the following year. You know, no pledge was taken so far, nothing is happening. The Prophet just offered them what he had, and the agreement was for them to return the next year. So we'll think about it for this whole year. We'll tell our tribes, our families, and we'll come back after a year, see what happens. Before that, during that period, then one great event happened. Now exactly where it is placed, by the way, by the scholars of Sirah, there are different opinions. And I'm talking here about Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj. Now commonly people believe that Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj happened in the month of Rajab of the 10th year. But actually there are different opinions. Some of them, they said it happened in Ramadan. That's why there's no confirmed narration as to when it happened. Actually, what seems to be the case that it did not happen in Rajab. Why? Because in that same year, Khadija alayhi ridwanullah died. And Khadija died in Ramadan of that year. And Khadija died before the 5 daily prayers became mandatory. And we know that the 5 daily prayers became mandatory actually in the Mi'raj. So which means that it happened after Ramadan. Not before that, as the case would be in Rajab. That's why we don't know exactly when Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj happened, but around that kind of period. And this may be an answer from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the dua of the Prophet when he was leaving Ta'if. When he says, Allahumma ilayka ashku da'fa quwwati wa qillata hilati wa hawani ala an-nas ila man takiluni ila ba'idin tajahamuni am ila aduwwin mallaktahu amri in lam yakun bika ghadabun alayya fala ubali. The beautiful dua that, Ya Allah, I seek refuge in you. I complain to you about my weakness and about my insignificance in the eyes of the people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show him his significance in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself and among the prophets. Hence happened Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj. And Al-Isra and Al-Mi'raj again happened, different narrations as to where it happened, but from Mecca. It's from the Kaaba. By the Kaaba, Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet alayhi salam with an animal called Al-Buraq. Al-Buraq, as it was described, something between a horse and a mule, that says that each of its step is as far as it could see, so the horizon. Very fast animal. And it seems to be the same animal that Ibrahim alayhi salam used to ride when he was visiting Ismail and Hajar in Mecca, when he was actually in Palestine himself. So he asked the Prophet alayhi salam to ride on Al-Buraq and then off toward Bayt al-Maqdis. Bayt al-Maqdis in Jerusalem, Al-Quds. And to the Masjid Al-Aqsa. Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, by the way, here, when you look now at the picture, you'll have the Dome of the Rock, Masjid Al-Sakhra, Qubbat Al-Sakhra, and what is called Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, which was actually built by the Umayyads, by the Umayyin. But this whole area actually is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. That's why it is not just that masjid on the side or Qubbat Al-Sakhra. The whole area actually is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, because this was not there when the Prophet ﷺ went on his Al-Isra. And he went there ﷺ, and he tied Al-Buraq by Ha'it Al-Makkah, what is called today Ha'it Al-Makkah or Ha'it Al-Buraq as we call it. He tied it down there, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala miraculously brought all the prophets back to life. How many of them? How many years? 124,000. You know, Allah mentioned in the Quran 25 or 26 prophets and messengers. But these are not all the prophets that there were. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith narrated by Ahmad that the number of prophets actually that Allah has sent is 124,000. Of them, 315 were also messengers, Rusul. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought all these prophets back to life. And Jibreel alayhi salam asked the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam to lead them all in prayer, indicating his status. He was the Imam al-Mursaleen of all the prophets and the Messenger alayhi salam. And then after that, the second part, and this is Al-Isra. And after that, the second part of the trip started, which is Al-Mi'raj. Al-Mi'raj, the ascension from Bayt al-Maqdis all the way to the seventh heaven and actually even beyond. Now some of the scholars, they said, well, why wasn't the Prophet taking directly from the Kaaba, directly all the way up to the seventh heaven? Why this trip to Bayt al-Maqdis and then from there up? Jazakumullah khair, Allah yabarik feekum. First, to establish a solid connection with the Masjid Al-Aqsa. And keep in mind, up till then, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa used to be the Qibla of the Muslims. That the Muslim used to pray facing Masjid Al-Aqsa, not Al-Masjid al-Haram in Mecca. That happened after the migration, when the Qibla actually was changed. So Masjid al-Aqsa was the first Qibla of the Muslims. And as if some of the scholars, they said that the path to the seventh heaven has to go through Masjid al-Aqsa. From the day one, establishing this solid connection with this sacred place. And then the ascension actually started up to the seventh heaven and beyond. And the Prophet ﷺ moving up with Jibreel, and every time they would reach a heaven, the angels will ask, who was there? And Jibreel ﷺ will say, Jibreel, and with me is Muhammad ﷺ. Now I want to stop for a moment talking about this a little bit before continuing the story. With me, I am Jibreel, and with me is Muhammad. And this is a good thing, wallah, to keep in mind. We discussed some of that when we were talking about the manners of visiting somebody. When you knock on somebody's door, and if you have somebody with you, tell them who you have with you. Maybe you're visiting, say for example, your sister, and you are a mahram for her, but you have somebody else who is with you. That's why it is good to say, I am so-and-so, and then with me is a friend of mine. And also it is important to say who you are. I am Jibreel. He did not say me. You know, that's why once a person knocked on the Prophet's door, ﷺ, the Prophet said, who's there? And the man says, Ana. And the Prophet says, Ana, you know, me. And it's a strange thing. Tell me who you are. Wallahi, this is something really important, by the way. When you send messages to somebody, text messages, brother, can I drop by to see you now? Well, who are you? You know, tell me who you are. That's why the basic rules of correspondence is to sign this message, to tell me who you are. Don't assume that I have your phone message and I already have your phone number and I know who it is. At least tell me who you are. You know, identify yourself as to who you are. Well, sometimes some strange things. Once a brother, and this happened, he called me from a restricted number, so you can't call him back. You know, Assalamu alaikum, brother Imad, please call me back, it's very important. And he goes, that's it. Yeah, no. You know, how do I, and of course I didn't call him back because I didn't know who it was, I don't have his number. And after a few days he called me back blaming me. Brother, why didn't you call me? It was something very important. Well, how would I know who it was? You called me from a restricted number and you assume that just, I will tell your voice just like that. That's why it is good to tell who you are. And if your name happened to be Muhammad, we only know 1 billion Muhammad. That's why it is good to say, you know, which Muhammad it is. At least to identify yourself as to who you are. And don't assume things. Again, this is, subhanAllah, we all do these things. At least sign at the bottom, Wallahi, Yazan, Imad, or something like that. So people will know who it is. You know, identifying. And another thing probably related to that, maybe messages that we all probably receive on Eid Day or on Ramadan Day, masses of messages, and sometimes you can tell clearly that this is not meant for you. Let's say, for example, if your parents are dead, and then somebody will tell you, inshallah, you're spending a good Eid with your parents this year. Well, you know that this is not for you. Wallahi, it's really important, if you care about the person, give them a call, talk to them. Make it personal. Don't just make it so impersonal, so, subhanAllah, just lifeless. Wallahi, it is. And sometimes, you know, alhamdulillah, I do have unlimited messaging, but some people don't. And if you flood them with messages, you're going to use all of their messages and they're going to start paying. Think about that and be considerate to the person that you're actually writing to. And I try to make it personal. It just doesn't take much. Wallah, subhanAllah, take 1 hour on Eid Day and then make a few calls. There's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful, wallahi. This way it will be personal. Not wallahi sending a message that you know for a fact that it's not meant to come to you. It just happened. You happen to be on somebody's list and it just came to you, and it becomes so annoying sometimes. Again, it is good. Wallahi, it is good for us to establish this habits of greeting, but try to make it personal. And then let it be out of your heart. Not just wallahi something mechanical I'm doing, pressing a button and everybody will receive that. So anyway, back to the story of Al-Mi'raj. The Prophet ﷺ moving from one heaven to the other. In the first heaven, the Prophet ﷺ saw Adam ﷺ, the father of humanity. And he greeted him and he believed in his message. He testified of his prophethood. In the second heaven, he saw Yahya ﷺ and then Isa ﷺ, and he also greeted them, testified to the prophethood, and then they accepted that and he moved beyond that. And the third heaven, he saw Yusuf ﷺ, the same thing. He greeted him and he testified of his prophethood. In the fourth heaven, he found Idris ﷺ. In the fifth one, he found Harun And the sixth one he found Musa alayhi salam. And in the seventh one he found the father of the prophets, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. May Allah be pleased with them all. And then he reached the seventh heaven. At that point, Jibreel alayhi salam, the Prophet saw Jibreel in his real shape. The Prophet said, I saw Jibreel dragging himself out of humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just humbleness, but beyond that humility, before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said that he only saw Jibreel twice in his life. This was the second time. The first time when he was coming back from the cave of Hira, he says, I look up in the heaven and I saw Jibreel alayhi salam filling the whole horizon, the whole sky, having 600 wings. With the tip of his wing, he turned the village of Lut upside down. And as strong and as mighty as he was so scared and so humiliated before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of fear and in humility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he told Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam that you have to move beyond that on your own. Because if I take one further step, I will be burned down. That's why Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is greater than Jibreel alayhi salam. He went to a place that Jibreel himself actually could not go. And at that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to him directly, in a way that befits him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't get into the how, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam directly, and he gave him 50 prayers. The Prophet took that and he went down, back to the journey. 50 prayers. If we still have the 50 prayers, it means we can do them. Right? And we're required to do them. Imagine that, 50 prayers. In a few minutes, you have to pray. Subhanallah. Wallah, it's tough. It's difficult. On his way, he stopped where Musa was. And Musa alayhi salam told him that, لَقَدْ عَالَجْتُ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. That I've dealt with Banu Israel so much. And I asked them for something much less than that. And they didn't do it. So ask your Lord to give you less. And it says that he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he supplicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the number to go down. And it went down by 10, 40. He went down to Musa, and Musa repeated the same thing. I asked him to do much less, and they didn't do it. And the Prophet ﷺ kept on asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala back and forth until the number went down to 5. And Musa ﷺ still told him that I asked Banu Israel to do even less, and they did not do it. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, I'm too shy to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the number started actually at 5. But it says that they're 5 but 50 actually in reward. That's why subhanallah, don't look at the 5 being 5, but look at 5 versus 50. SubhanAllah, if you were doing 50, can you believe that? And we would be accountable for that. But alhamdulillah, it is 5. It is easy, wallah, it doesn't take really that much. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards even more. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him different things, different scenes actually on that time. Like one of the scenes that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was shown, scenes from the Day of Judgment. Like he says, people that with big guts, and they're being tramped upon by Fir'aun, by the people of Fir'aun. And the Prophet said that who is this to Jibreel? And Jibreel alayhi salam told him these are the people that eat al-riba, that eat the usury, that they benefit out of al-riba. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him some people who have good meat and food in front of them, and then bad stinking food. They leave the good one and they eat from the bad stinking one. And the Prophet asked Jibreel, he says, and the Prophet would ask him, Ya akhi ya Jibreel, my brother Jibreel. SubhanAllah, look at the humbleness of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and the manner, even though you can say, well, he's not a human, so how could he be his brother? Well, his brother in belief, you can look at it this way. That's why the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam used to always look for points of commonality. That my brother Jibreel, what is this? And Jibreel told him that this is the halal that Allah made available to the people. Mean halal marriage, halal relationship. And people have the haram relationship. They leave the halal and they go to the haram, even though Allah made the halal available to them through marriage and then these halal means. But some people still leave the halal and they go to the haram. So anyway, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam then back to Bayt al-Maqdis, and from there back to Al-Masjid al-Haram. On the way back, from the trip back from Bayt al-Maqdis back to Al-Masjid al-Haram, the Prophet ﷺ was on al-Buraq. And as he was traveling, he passed by a tribe. This tribe was busy doing different things, and one of the camels that they had saw al-Buraq. and he got scared and he went astray. So they went looking for that camel. The Prophet ﷺ told them, and somehow they heard him, that the camel is in such and such place. And they went and they found the camel. Also the Prophet ﷺ wanted to drink. He was thirsty. So they had a certain container that was covered with water in there. So the Prophet uncovered the container, he drank from it, and he covered it back. So now it's empty, but it stayed covered. So the people went back and they found the container that used to be empty still covered, but the water is gone. So anyway, the Prophet ﷺ went back to Mecca, and the next morning, the whole thing happened in the night. The whole thing, it's miraculous, subhanallah. And the Isra and Mi'raj, by the way, happened physically. So the Prophet ﷺ was physically taken. It was not that he was sitting and the things actually were just his soul. No, the whole thing happened physically. So the next morning, the Prophet ﷺ started talking to the people and telling them that during the night, he visited Bayt al-Maqdis. And the kuffar of Quraysh were so happy. Why were they so happy? Because now this proves that this guy is crazy to them. People normally take weeks to go to Bayt al-Maqdis and come back. And you're telling us that you went overnight? So that's why when they were before dispersing people away from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, now they were gathering people. Hey, come and listen, Muhammad has something to say. They were so happy because to them, this proves that Muhammad was insane. And of course, they went to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq alayhi ridwanillah, his closest companion, laughing. Hey, haven't you heard? Your friend is saying to everybody that last night he went to Bayt al-Maqdis. What did Abu Bakr as-Siddiq alayhi ridwanillah say? He says, "In kana qalaha faqad sadaq." He says, if he said it, then it's the truth. Now here Abu Bakr as-Siddiq alayhi ridwanillah said something very important. If he said it, he did not just say it's the truth. Why? Because the messenger, the person who is bringing that information to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq may not be trustworthy. That's why that has to be covered. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said, if he said it, it has to be the truth. And he says, I believe that he's done something much bigger than that. I believe that he's receiving the revelation. So what is that trip to Bayt al-Maqdis compared to the revelation? So I believe in him when he says something much greater than that. That's why he went, everybody was gathered around the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq went with everybody. And the Prophet was talking to them. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq told him, Ya Rasulullah, everybody knows that you've never been to Bayt al-Maqdis before. So why don't you describe it to us? Which means that if you've been there, you would tell us what it is. But everybody knows that before this trip, if it did happen, you've never been to Bayt al-Maqdis. Everybody knows that. And the Prophet ﷺ said that Bayt al-Maqdis zuwiyali, it was put in front of him. So the Prophet ﷺ was looking at Bayt al-Maqdis. It's in front of him. 3D. Real D. In front of him ﷺ. And people started asking him, what's there beyond this wall? And the Prophet is looking at it. Beyond this wall is this. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq will say, Sadaqt. Happily. He was very happy saying, you said the truth, Ya Abu Bakr. You said the truth, Ya Rasulullah. And he will ask him, people will ask him, well, after these steps, below these steps to the left, what's there? And the Prophet would tell them exactly what's in there. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq would repeat, Sadaqta Ya Rasulullah. You said the truth, Ya Rasulullah. That's when the Prophet ﷺ called him as-Siddiq. The one who's confirming with the Prophet ﷺ, believing in him. And it was a big test to the believers. That's why they asked him, is there any sign that you can tell us in addition to what you described? Now he described everything. It's accurate. And the Prophet said, yes. On the way back from Bayt al-Maqdis, and he told them about what happened to that tribe. There was a tribe who lost their camel, and I told them what it was, and they had a pot of water. I drank from it and I covered it back. And according to my calculation, this tribe should arrive to Mecca in 3 days. And in 3 days, true enough, a tribe came to Mecca. And they asked him, people asked him, Wash, have you seen anything unusual happening? They said, no, but there was something. One of our camels was lost, and we heard a voice from somewhere telling us what it was, and we found it in there. And we had a pot of water that's filled with water and covered. We went back to it. It was still covered, but the water was gone. Exactly as the Prophet ﷺ said to them. And as such, it was a test. But subhanAllah, you can look, this trip has so many significance to it. One of them is the importance of the salat. The Muslims were praying before that. It was not, but they were praying 2 times a day. In Fajr and around Maghrib time. But at that time, that the 5 daily prayers became required. Subhanallah, so important, the prayers are so important that they had to be given directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only through Jibreel, but even in a place where Jibreel himself could not get into. That's why it is so important. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, before his death, Allah hafiz salat. I ask you by Allah, do not neglect the salat. And he repeated that ﷺ. It is the essence of the religion, the pillar of the religion. That's why he said, as-salatu imaduddin. In another hadith he says, al-ahdu baynana wa baynahum as-salat, about the munafiqeen, man tarakaha faqad kafar. That anyone that forsakes it and rejects it, then he is a kafir. It is so important that it had to be given directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not even through Jibreel. That's why not to be taken lightly, subhanallah. The prayer, unlike any other obligation, the prayer, it is the essence of our religion. It is the pillar of our religion. So it was a big test. It was a big test to the believers. But subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed the truth afterward. And now we're talking about which year? The 11th year. Jazakallah khair. And then what happened during the Hajj of the 11th year, in which month? Ramadan? Dhul Hijjah, of course, right? Al-Hajj. That during the Dhul Hijjah, the month of Dhul Hijjah of the 11th year, now the 6 people that had met with the Prophet ﷺ the year before, 5 of them came back. 5 of them came back, and there were actually 12 this time. 5 plus 7 more, and among these 12, 2 of them were from the Al-Aws, but the remaining from the Khazraj. So they came to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Muhammad, we thought about what you said, and we want to embrace your message. Subhanallah, the biggest turning point. This was the first pledge of Al-Aqaba. The first pledge of Al-Aqaba, because they met in a place called Al-Aqaba. It's the second meeting, right? The second meeting, but the first pledge. In the first meeting there was no pledge. And here at that time, they gave the Prophet ﷺ the first Bay'at Al-Aqaba Al-Ula, the first pledge of Al-Aqaba, which is also called Bay'at Al-Nisa, the pledge of the women. Why was it called the pledge of the women? What?
No jihad.
No jihad in it? That's true. The 2 women came in the year after that. This time there were no women. There were no women at this time. It is called Bay'at al-Nisa because it is similar to the pledge that the Prophet took from the women after the conquest of Mecca. It is the same element. When the Prophet took the pledge al-Bay'ah from the woman after he conquered the Mecca, he asked for specific things. No zina, no stealing, no lying. All these good morals, all the bad moral habits, to forsake them. And here the Prophet ﷺ took a pledge from them for the same thing. So these 2 pledges are the same. That's why it is called Bay'at al-Nisa. Even though there were no women at that time. But for that reason it is called as such. And they told the Prophet ﷺ that, Ya Rasulullah, why don't you send somebody back with us to teach our people Islam? Because the Prophet ﷺ wants to go to them. So in preparation for the Prophet's migration ﷺ, the Prophet was to send with them the first, a companion, a great companion, one of the greatest, known as the first ambassador of Islam. The great Sahabi known as, what was his name? Mus'ab ibn Umair, Jazakumullah khair. A great Sahabi, alayhi ridwanillah. He was very handsome and he was very rich, but subhanAllah, he left everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was killed in the battle of Uhud. They said he used to have the nicest clothes, before Islam. And he says that you can smell his perfume even long after he was gone. And his mother used to pamper him so much. But the moment he became Muslim, she took all of that away from him. And he was happy with it. SubhanAllah, sometimes people will tell you, Ya akhi, when I became Muslim, things became difficult on me. أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. That people think that we're going to let them say we are believers without being tested. That's why, wallahi, Islam and guidance is the greatest gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give it to anybody. And sometimes people, subhanAllah, will tell you as if they've done you a favor for being a Muslim, as Allah says in Surah Al-Hujurat, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا قُلْ لَا تَمُنُّوا عَلَيَّ إِسْلَامَكُمْ بَلِ اللَّهُ يَمُنُّ عَلَيْكُمْ أَنْ هَدَاكُمْ لِلْإِيمَانِ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. That some people, Allah is saying to the Prophet, some people will tell you as if they've done you a favor for being Muslims. And Allah telling the Prophet that, tell them it is not a favor from you on anybody. It is the favor of Allah on you. that He guide you to Islam if you are truly believers. That's wallah, this is one of the greatest blessings that we have. It is good to think about it as such. Not wallahi that I'm doing somebody somewhere a favor. Ya akhi, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. I became Muslim. Wallahi, you're doing it for yourself. Do you know how much you'll be getting in return for that? You'll be getting al-Jannah. So who are you doing a favor by doing that? Wallahi, to yourself. It's a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Mus'ab ibn Umair understood that. That's why when he died, they said that even whatever he was wearing was not enough to cover all of his body. If they covered his head, his feet will show. If they cover his feet, his head will show. The Prophet says, cover his head and put some plants or some leaves on his feet. Alayhi ridwanillah. He was the first ambassador to Islam. So the Prophet entrusted him with the most serious job at that time, to prepare Al-Madinah for the migration of the Muslims, to teach the Muslims of Yathrib, the people of Yathrib. And it was not an easy task. You know, there were some challenges. The famous story that he had with Usayd ibn Hudayr. Usayd ibn Hudayr was one of the leaders of the people in Yathrib. And he heard that this Mus'ab ibn Umair is preaching this new religion, so he got very upset. So he grabbed his spear and he says, what is this new religion you're talking to us about? He says that Mus'ab ibn Umair very calmly and then nicely, firmly, but very calmly, he answered him back. And he says, why don't you listen to what I have to say? If you don't like it, I would leave you. If you don't like it, if you like it, maybe you can follow it. And Usayd ibn Hudayr was a very reasonable person. He says, that makes sense. So he sat and he started listening to Mus'ab ibn Umair. And he says, he stood up in the middle of the person's speech and he says, Wallahi, what you're saying is so beautiful. How could a person follow it? And Mus'ab ibn Umair told him that you go wash yourself, take a ghusl, and you come back. And he came back, he says, still dripping water. And he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So it was a unanimous success of Mus'ab ibn Umair. And this year, so many people actually became Muslim. He says that Islam entered every single house in Medina. Every single house in Yathrib knew about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, or even have some members of the household who became Muslim. That's why in the following year, Mus'ab ibn Umair in the Hajj, there was some correspondence between the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and also the people of Yathrib. Mus'ab ibn Umair said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Ya Rasulullah, it is time for you to come to us. For there's not a single house in Yathrib that does not have Islam. And a group of, how many people were the first that met with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam the first year? 6. The second year 12. This time actually is 70 some. 70 some, exactly how many, but 70 some. And this was just a delegation. 70 some as a delegation means the Muslims are even more than that. And among these actually were two women, and those were of course Asma bint Amr and the great Nusayba alayhi ridwanullah, Nusayba bint Ka'b, who used to be defending the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam like nobody else. And they agreed and they came for Hajj. These 70 some, 72, 73, they came with their own people to Hajj. So there were some people going for Hajj from Yathrib, from Medina, that were not Muslims. And there were these 70 some people as well. But these 70 some people had a specific secret plan. They agreed to meet the Prophet ﷺ on the second day of Ayyam al-Tashriq. What day is that? Now what's the day of Arafah? What day of Arafah in the month of Dhul Hijjah? Arafah is the 9th. The day of Eid or Yawm al-Nahr is the 10th. And the following 3 days are Ayyam al-Tashriq. These are the 3 days of al-Tashriq. The middle one, that's when they agreed to meet with the Prophet ﷺ in the middle of the night. That's what would happen. And then I try to imagine the situation. So in the middle of the night, they were camping. They didn't have those nice cabins and all of the. They were camping in the middle of the night among their people. And in the middle of the night, 70 some, we're not talking about 1 or 2, 70 some people sneaked out of their tents secretly when everybody's asleep and off to meet the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Try to imagine that. Meeting with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam so as to hear what the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam asks of them. That's what they want to know. They're not there to ask what can we get. And listen, subhanAllah, what's coming next. And they came asking the Prophet ﷺ to go with them. They want the Prophet even though everybody was fighting the Prophet ﷺ. So to have the Prophet among you is a source of danger, right? It is a source of danger. So who would want the Prophet ﷺ? But yet they wanted the Prophet ﷺ. But before they said anything, with the Prophet ﷺ was his uncle Al-Abbas, who stayed there. He was not a Muslim. Al-Abbas, before they said anything, and he said to them, hey, listen, Ya Ma'shar al-Khazraj. They used to be called al-Khazraj, or collectively, even though they were al-Aws and al-Khazraj. And he said to them that Muhammad is among his family, and we are protecting him. So if you're going to take him, and after give up on him, don't. If you're going to take him, you have to protect him. Otherwise, leave him with us. We can protect him. We can take care of him. Otherwise, don't take him. And they said actually, we will take him, and we will actually protect him, whatever we protect our families from. And they asked, Ya Rasulullah, what do you want? What do you ask of us? Ka'b, is the one that says that we will give the Prophet whatever he asks. The Prophet ﷺ said, first of all, I will ask of you to listen and obey. So the Prophet is not going to them as a refugee. The Prophet is going to them as their leader, as something very important. The Prophet is not just going seeking safety in a certain place. No, he was migrating toward them as their own leader, alayhi salatu wassalam. So he said, على السمع والطاعة في المنشط والمكره أو في النشاط والكسل, that you will listen and obey when it is something that you like or something that you dislike. So first, obedience. You have to obey me. Second thing is that you will spend for the sake of Allah in times of ease and in times of hardship. على النفقة في العسر واليسر. The third, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. The fourth is that you will defend the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without fearing any blame from anybody else. The fifth is that you will support me and you will protect me the way you protect your own families. Now try to think about that. The Prophet is asking for so much. Somebody who's not a Muslim. The Prophet is asking them, they would listen, they will obey, they will enjoy the good, forbid the evil, support the cause, spend for the sake of Allah and defend him. He's asking for a lot. Ya Rasulullah, what do we have if we give you all of that? The Prophet says, Al-Jannah. That's it. Subhanallah. It's not even in this word. Wallahi, listen to this. That's why Sayyid Qutb said, when the Muslims became so great as to give all of that for the sake of Al-Jannah, they deserve the leadership. Allah gave it to them. So Allah will not give it to anybody. When the people reach such level of dedication, of commitment, of ikhlas, they deserve the leadership. Because their goal is not the leadership. Their goal is not even in this word. All of this is given for the sake of something that exists somewhere else, Al-Jannah. That's all they will get. But they knew actually what they were pledging for. And they knew what Al-Jannah means, subhanallah. And that's sometimes our problem, is that we don't think of Al-Jannah as something real. It is something we hear about, a story, something. Subhanallah, once, and you'll hear that afterward, that the Prophet ﷺ, when he migrated, he paired Al-Muhajirin and the Ansar. They were to be brothers. And they were to share everything. You know what means everything that you have? That's it. That's why once one of the Sahaba said to Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, he said that, I have 2 houses and I have 2 wives. So look at the house that you like, I will give it to you. And look at the wife that you like, I will divorce her and she becomes yours. However, by the way, here, a point in here. This is not to say, wallah, look at the Muslims, how they're treating their wives. Well, this man is fresh into Islam. That's why this person is not to be taken as an example in this regard. But that's why, don't take the wrong message for it. A person who knows about Islam would not do something like that, anyway, giving his wife like that. But they still have this jahiliyyah mentality. But it just shows you how much they were willing to share with the muhajirin, with the immigrants. How could they do that? Well, think about it. If somebody would tell you, hey brother, can I borrow your car? Well, I just washed it. I don't want to, you don't like to share. But here they were willing to give everything, including the dearest thing to their heart. They were willing to share that. How would they do that? SubhanAllah, I was talking to one of my shuyukh, asking him the same question. And he said, let me ask you something. Let's say you have certain things, possessions, that you don't like to share with anybody. If I were to tell you, hey, if you share these possessions with so-and-so, I will give you $1 million. Allah, I wouldn't share, I would give it all to him. Right? $1 million you're talking about in here. That's the Sahaba alayhi ridwanullah. They knew what they were getting in return. It is not just an information, they believed in it. It is something they believe in it as a reality, not just, inshallah you'll have reward. I like what I have now. No, but they believed actually in the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they were willing to share everything. That's why when the Prophet told them you will have al-Jannah, to them this is a great deal. To them, they're not sacrificing much. To them, they're getting so much back. They're getting al-Jannah. It is not a small thing. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا أَنَّ سِلْعَةَ اللَّهِ غَالِيَةٌ أَلَا أَنَّ سِلْعَةَ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْجَنَّةِ. He said ﷺ, the merchandise that Allah is selling is expensive. That merchandise is al-Jannah. You cannot actually get it so easily. That's what the Sahaba did alayhim ridwanillah. So the Prophet ﷺ said that. Then one of them, his name is Abu al-Haytham ibn Tihan, he says, Ya Rasulullah, we'll give you all of that. But whenever if you come to us, we're going to cut ties with some of the people that we already know. We're going to cut ties with the tribes, We're going to give you our allegiance, our full allegiance. And this would result maybe in becoming enemies with some of the other people. So if you became victorious and you become strong, are you going to leave us and we'll be stuck with this animosity? And the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, I am of you and you are of me. With my blood, I will never leave you. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam would be up to that trust. He would not leave them. He would not leave them alayhi salatu wasalam after all of these things. That's why alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, بَلِ الدَّمُ الدَّمُ وَالْهَدْمُ الْهَدْمُ أنا منكم وأنتم مني أحارب من حاربتم وأسالب من وسلمتم. He says, with my blood, I am of you and you are of me. I will declare war on whoever you declare war to, and I will declare peace toward whoever you declare peace to. So it is not a small thing. It is not just a short deal, but this is something to be permanent. And the Prophet ﷺ did that. That's why he was buried in Medina. Even after Mecca became Muslim, even after the conquest of Mecca, the people of Al-Ansar, the people of Medina, were concerned that, well, now his own hometown became Muslim. Is he going to come back to us? And of course the Prophet did. Because the Prophet promised that, alayhi salatu wasalam, that he will never leave them for anything else. So they gave the bay'ah to the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and then back to their tents, secretly. And nobody felt anything. SubhanAllah. Again, imagine this whole thing is happening with the complete secrecy. In the middle of the night. So before even the morning, these people went back to their tents and they slept for the night as if nothing had happened. But it says that some of the narration says that the shaitan, Iblis, warned the people of Quraysh that some people met with Muhammad, some people met with Muhammad during the night. So the people of Quraysh, the big kuffar of Quraysh, came to the people of Al-Khazraj and they said, did you guys meet with Muhammad? The people that did meet with Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam didn't say anything. The other people, they said, no, we did not. So they felt comfortable with that. Nobody was upset with that. So the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam then commanded them to go back. And now the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam commanded the Sahaba to migrate toward Medina. And at this time it was mandatory migration. Unlike the migration to Abyssinia, it was a preparation for the greatest journey. The biggest turning point as far as journey is concerned was actually the migration. And people started sneaking out of Mecca toward Medina. And some of them, they have it difficult. Like Suhaib al-Rumi alayhi ridwanillah. Suhaib, he was a foreigner. He came to Mecca poor and he made some money. As he was leaving, the people of Quraysh held on to him. They told him that, you came as poor and now you're leaving with all the money. He said to them that if I give you all the money, would you let me go? They said yes. So he gave all of his wealth. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he heard that, he says, رَبِحَ الْبَيْعُ يَا صُهَيْبْ, that you hit a striking and a winning deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You did not lose. It was a big winning what you did, because you gained that journey with the Prophet ﷺ. Also the same thing with Abu Salama. Abu Salama, he had his wife, Salama, the great Salama. And he had Salama. Who was Salama? His son, not his daughter. Salama was his son. Actually, what happened is that he was planning on taking Salama and Salama with him because they were Muslims. But the family of Salama held on to him, held on to their daughter, to her, and they did not let her go. That's why he left everything and he went. And people started leaving secretly, of course, except Umar ibn Khattab alayhi wa. Umar would never leave secretly. He stood up and he says, anyone who wants his mother to lose him, let him come after me. And of course nobody dared to do that. And he left him there. Now here, the Prophet ﷺ left secretly. Does that mean that Umar is more courageous than the Prophet? I'll explain the story, by the way. But this particular points in here. We all say that Umar left declaring it to anybody, without fearing anybody. But the Prophet ﷺ did it secretly. He did not do it openly. Was Umar more courageous than the Prophet? Of course not. Nobody's more courageous than the Prophet ﷺ. You know, in the Battle of Hunayn, everybody left. The whole army, the great Sahaba, and he's the only one that stayed behind. أنا محمد لا كذب, أنا ابن عبد المطلب. I am Muhammad, come and get me, so to speak. That's why nobody is courageous, even close to the Prophet ﷺ. But the Prophet ﷺ is an example. Umar al-Khattab is not an example, is not an absolute example. Because the Prophet ﷺ was an example, he had to accommodate everybody under his example. Because Umar al-Khattab is only an example to those that can do it. But what the Prophet did ﷺ is something that everybody can do. And the trip specifically of the migration, we'll discuss it maybe next time inshallah, is a great example of planning, of taking everything into consideration. Even though the Prophet is supported by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have given him al-buraq, the same animal that he used in the Isra. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant for the Prophet to take the journey like everybody else. With the planning, because the Prophet ﷺ is a great example. And there were so many lessons in the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. So people started migrating, one after the other. And the people of Quraysh heard of the news. They became aware that the Muslims are leaving toward Yathrib. And they started becoming concerned that Muhammad ﷺ would leave as well. Why? Because they thought that if the Muslims are gathered in one place, what makes them a sizable source of danger, so to speak, or a sizable power, is when they get united with the leader, right? So here you have the masses, the Muslims of Mecca and the Muslims of Medina, right? What makes this a source of danger as far as they were concerned? When they meet with the leadership, when these Muslims meet with the leadership, that's why they tried their hardest to prevent Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from migrating. And they start planning, and they met in a place called Dar al-Nadwa, the council, whatever. They met. They used to meet in that place to decide an important matter. At that time, Iblis himself, the big Iblis, came in the shape of an old man from Najd, an old man. The meeting was supposed to be secret. And he came to that meeting and he told them, I'm an old man from Najd. I know what you were doing, what you're up to. And I have good opinions. So that's why it doesn't hurt you for me to being with you. I may give you something useful. And they started trying to decide what to do with Muhammad ﷺ. Meanwhile, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq asked the Prophet Muhammad for permission to migrate. Ya Rasulullah, إِذَنْ لِي بِالْهِجْرَةِ, give me the permission to migrate. And the Prophet would tell them that no, not yet. You, not yet. The others, yes, but you, not yet. And he told them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may give you a companion in your journey. And after some times, Abu Bakr will ask him the same question. Ya Rasulullah, should I migrate? And the Prophet will repeat that Allah may give you a companion for your journey. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq prepared 2 camels, one with provisions, one for himself, and one for that other companion. And of course he was hoping that this other companion would be the Prophet himself ﷺ. Even though being connected in any way to the Prophet is a source of danger, puts you under great danger. So here, back to the meeting in Dar al-Nadwa. What should we do to Muhammad ﷺ? Then you say ﷺ. One of them, they said, Nanfi, we'll send him into exile, we'll kick him out somewhere else. So here Iblis, the old man, he says, well, you've heard the sweetness of his talk. If you send him anywhere, he will get followers over there. Okay, it doesn't work. Then somebody else said, we'll imprison him, put him in prison. Then Iblis, again, if you imprison him, then his own people will come, will sneak out, and they will free him. And after thinking and thinking, then Abu Jahl, Amr ibn Hisham, came up with the idea. He says, I have the opinion. He said, we'll pick one person from each tribe, one young man from each tribe, and we'll ask them all to go and kill Muhammad at once. This way the tribe of Muhammad will not be able to seek revenge, because there would be so many tribes involved. Iblis said, this is the best opinion. See, Iblis himself could not come up with that opinion. Abu Jahl did. Abu Jahl did something that even Iblis could not come up with. And that was the agreement. That was the agreement. That's why they had a group of young men by the door of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. In the house with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam that night was his cousin, who was raised in his own house, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi ridwanullah, the great Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Ali ibn Abi Talib first stayed behind so as to send back the trust to the people. See, the people of Mecca, they were fighting the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, but yet they would still trust him. Subhanallah. So whenever they have anything valuable, what's the best place to leave it? Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Subhanallah, despite the fact that he's different from them, and they would not follow him, and they would fight him, and the Prophet was up to that trust. That's why he kept Ali behind to give the trust back to the people. And Ali was to stay in the bed of the Prophet ﷺ, and the young men are waiting outside. Now, why did these young men not just break in and then go inside? They said, subhanallah, that even the Jahiliyyah, they had certain good values, by the way. They said that one of them tried to jump in and he heard a woman from inside screaming. So he went back. That's it. It's a big shame. We will not actually break into where there's actually some woman inside. It's a big shame for them, despite the fact that they were there to kill Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But they still had some good values in there. So they waited outside. And in the middle of the night, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam went out, reading, Yasin wal Quran al Hakim, innaka lamina al mursaleen, ala siratim mustaqim. When they were just standing in there, and he grabbed some dirt, and he put it on their head, and he continued. And they were sitting, waiting, as if nothing is happening. And he went there, and they stayed actually in that, waiting there until the end of the night, until they could not wait any longer. That's when they went in. And they went in, and of course, who did they find in the bed? Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi ridwanullah. And they said, look on your head. Look on your head, and they found that dirt. They says, Muhammad actually bewitched you. That's really what they thought actually had happened. Muhammad, seduced you, did something to you. It was a spell. He cast a spell on you. And of course, the Prophet did it as a proof that I went out and among you. And here's the proof, the dirt on your head. Now when the Prophet ﷺ went and then left, of course, off to the house of his closest companion, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq alayhi ridwanullah. Asma bint Abi Talib, she said, bint Abu Bakr alayhi ridwanullah, she said that the Prophet Muhammad came to our place at a time that he does not normally actually come at, in the middle of the night. And he knocked on the door, and the Prophet told Abu Bakr as-Siddiq that أخرج من عندك. If you have anybody who is a foreigner, a stranger, let them out, who's not a member of your household. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq says, it's only my children, and they were Muslims, it's only my children. And the Prophet ﷺ told Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Ya Abu Bakr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the permission to migrate. Allahu adana li bil hijrah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, as-sahbata ya Rasulullah. He told him, Ya Rasulullah, your companionship. Give me your companionship. And the Prophet says, you will have my companionship. Asma bint Abu Bakr, she said that I've never seen anybody crying out of happiness until I saw my father on that day, on that night. Subhanallah, so happy, despite the fact that the whole world is looking for the Prophet ﷺ. But he was so happy to be with the Prophet ﷺ, and that's when the greatest actually journey started. The Prophet ﷺ left with the animal, and then off. Medina is toward the north, but the Prophet ﷺ went south. Again, the planning of the journey to the cave of Thawr, where he stayed for 3 days, after which he continued his journey. What happened in that journey, inshallah, will be the topic of our next meeting. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That's really a good point. What the sister was saying is that there are certain things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't tell us about. Maybe because we don't need to know about it actually as far as our iman is concerned. There are certain things that are not of direct practical benefit to ourselves. That's why actually the Sharia did not mention about, and it becomes almost like a test of our submission, by the way. For example, certain things that were not explained. And sometimes it is good, I like the statement made by Hassan al-Banna. He says, I will translate, he says, وَكُلُّ مَسْأَلَ لَا يُبْنِي عَلَيْهَا عَمَلٍ فَالْخَوْضُ فِيهَا مِنَ التَّكَلُّفِ الَّذِي نُهِينَ عَنْهُ شَرْعًا. He says, every matter that you cannot base an action on, then engaging into lengthy discussions about it is a waste of time that we are prohibited actually from doing. It is good to keep that in mind. Jazakumullah. It's a good point. But sometimes, subhanAllah, out of curiosity, we like to know. And then we try to. I think you balance it as much as possible. And sometimes, by the way, this becomes an issue, especially when we try to discuss certain misconceptions about Islam. There are certain aspects of the religion that are a test for us. For example, why do we pray 5 times a day? Why not 6? Why not 7? It's a ibadah. وَالْأَصْلُ فِي الْعِبَادَةِ التَّعَبُّدِ. The essence of the worship is the worship. Yes, جزاكم الله خير. That's why, now sometimes you can talk about the benefits of that as an added issue. Why do we fast? Because Allah said so. That's the reason we fast. Now we can talk about the benefit of fasting. This adds to it. But the reason we fast is Allah said so. That's it. That's the reason. It's a test for our Islam. خير إن شاء الله. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير والحمد لله رب العالمين.